Welcome to the video lecture series based on Class 11 Sociology textbook Introducing Sociology. I'm Olivia Dirinamai, and today we would be doing two more topics from Chapter 2, that is social stratification. Now, you see, in every society, there is some sort of inequality based on income of the individual or the family, occupation, education, or hereditary status. No two individuals are alike. All societies arrange their members in terms of inferiority, superiority, and equality. This placing of people in strata or layers is called stratification. Those in the top have more power, privilege, and prestige than those below. Every aspect of the life of every individual and household is affected by stratification. The opportunities that you get for health, longevity of your life, social, economic security, your educational success, how fulfilled or satisfied in the work that you're doing, in your career, and the kind of political influence that you exert, they are all unequally distributed in systematic ways. No two individuals have the same kind of opportunity. Therefore, social stratification refers to the existence of structured inequalities which rates and ranks members of a society based on certain criteria and limits access to wealth, power, privileges, and opportunities. Historically, we have four basic systems or four types of social stratification in human societies. They are slavery, feudal or estate system, caste, and class. Let's see what is slavery. Slavery is an extreme form of inequality in which some individuals are owned by others, like you own a car, like you own a property. Likewise, you own slaves too. And these slaves are the lowest categories in any stratification system because they don't have any rights, they don't have any power, they don't have any wealth, they don't have any property of their own. They are even sometimes treated lesser than a human being also. Like supposing a slave master, the master may treat his or her pet more better than they treat their slaves. In fact, you can say that slaves are not considered as human beings also. Now, in history, we have had two examples of the slavery system. One was in ancient Greece and Rome, and the other, which is commonly known to all of you, was the slavery system of the southern states of the United States of America in the 18th and 19th centuries, where slaves were brought from Africa and then they were used in the plantation farming of America. You have heard about it, you have read about it. I'm sure you must have seen some movies also about it and how the slaves were treated and all these things. The second kind of social stratification which existed was the estate system. The estate system was a part of the feudal system prevalent in Europe during the Middle Ages, especially in France and England. Now, usually the estate system consisted of three main divisions: the nobility, which include the nobles and the royal family, the kings and the queens and the royal family, the nobles who are the landed people. They own the land, they have the property, they have the military capacity, military might. And then we have the second level of the second estate, which is the clergy. The clergy, they are the religious leaders and the monks, the priests, the bishops, the religious group, the religious leaders, and the commoners or serfs. The serfs or the commoners, they are the one who actually work on the land, but they do not own the land. Now, each estate has some defined function. Each group has a defined function. The nobility, their function was to fight and defend all the people. The clergy, being of the religious group, their duty were to pray for the well-being of the people. And the serfs, they were to work on the land and provide food for the people. The estate system, call it completely closed. Like some social mobility will be allowed in the estate system, wherein sometimes a common person, a common people, a common person, though not born from a noble family, not born into nobility, sometimes he or she may be given land and given power and positions by the king if he finds favor in the eyes of the king. So there was social mobility. It was not a closed system. And sometimes the clergy, the members of the clergy were recruited from all sections of the society. It is not as such that only from one section of the society the clergy, the members of the clergy were recruited. So people from the commoners or the serf, which were the lowest in the hierarchy, in the ranking in the feudal system, they can improve themselves. So more or less social mobility is available or present or possible in the estate system. Now let's come to the caste system. The caste system is a unique Indian system, meaning it is like found only in India and not anywhere else. It is an inseparable aspect of the Indian society. Let's see what are the characteristics of this system of stratification. It is hierarchical. It is a hierarchical order with Brahmins at the top, followed by the Kshatriya. The Kshatriyas are the nobles and the warrior class. Then we have the Vaisyas, more who are like the artisans and the merchants and the traders, and the Shudras, peasants and workers. There are the four rank or four status in this order: top, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaisyas and Shudras. And then there is the so-called Dalits or the untouchables or the outcasts who are placed at the bottom of the hierarchy. They are not in the fourfold class. They are outside the system, outside the hierarchical system. They are considered so impure that they are not given a rank however low it is in the four system, in the four ranking. They are considered outside, placed outside the system. Now, it is a closed system. The status in the caste system is ascribed, meaning it is determined by one's birth. If you are born into a Kshatriya or if you are born into a Brahmin, you will be a Brahmin till you die. You cannot change your caste. You cannot say, oh, today I don't want to be a Kshatriya anymore. I want to be a Brahmin. So let me be a Brahmin. No, you cannot do that. Once you're born into a particular caste, whether you like it or not, you have to stay there till you die. That's why it is called a closed system. The next is, one of the features of caste system is the traditional occupation. In the old system, every caste, they followed a certain occupation which was handed down from one generation to next. Example, your father is a blacksmith, then you have to be a blacksmith. Your father is a washerman, you have to be a washerman. You are from the warrior class, soldier, then you have to be a soldier. There is no other occupation for you. You cannot say, I don't want to be, I want to be this, I want to be that. It is not. It is hereditary. Your occupation is passed down from your parents, and you pass down your occupation to your children from generation to generation. Another feature of caste system is restriction on food habits. The caste system has imposed certain restriction on the food habits of the members, like who should accept what kind of food and from whom, what one caste can eat or cannot eat. Example, a high caste Brahmin cannot accept food from the low caste. Even in Manipur, we have this amongst the Hindus. They have this where in auspicious occasions or in any functions or thing, food are cooked by the Brahmins, which in local dialect we call them the Bamon. The Bamon is the one who come and cook food. And in a Bamon marriage or in a Bamon occasion, non-Bamon cannot cook. The Bamon can cook food and serve for the other caste, and the other caste, they cannot cook and serve. So there is restriction on from whom to accept food and from whom you cannot accept food. And there is another thing also, the lower caste, they can eat. Supposing the lowest caste, like the untouchables, the Dalits and so on, they eat non-veg also. But the high caste, especially the so-called the Brahmins or the Bamon, they are not supposed to eat beef, they are not supposed to eat pork, they are not supposed to eat chicken, they are supposed to be vegetarian, you see. So what food they can eat, what food they cannot eat also is there. So restriction on food habits. Another thing is endogamy. Caste system follows endogamy, where individuals marry within their own caste. Especially in the past, intercaste marriage was strictly prohibited. Brahman or a Brahmin has to marry only a Brahmin or a Brahmin boy or girl. A Kshatriya has to marry only a Kshatriya boy or girl. There is no intercaste marriage. Intercaste marriage is not acceptable, especially in the past. Even now in India, especially in urban areas, with education and urbanization and all these things, there are certain relaxation, but in very traditional places like village and so on, in the rural areas, this caste endogamy is still very strictly followed. Another feature is restriction on caste interaction and access to opportunities. Lower castes were denied many opportunities, such as access to public places and schools, like in the past, especially in the past. Even now it is there, like I say, in very traditional rural areas and so on. Lower caste people are not, especially the Dalits, especially the untouchables, they are not allowed access to the village well where everybody can take water, or even when they are allowed also, they have a specific time. Like when nobody is there, suppose in the morning and afternoon, when all the village folks, women, men, they go to carry water, and that particular time, the untouchables, they are not allowed to come. They are allowed to come only when nobody is there, when nobody can see them, when nobody can, where they can, when nobody is there, when they cannot pollute other with their presence. So, especially in the past, even access to temples, place of worship, the lower castes were not allowed to go in. The lower class were not allowed to go in village schools and temples and wells and all these public places, they were not given access. Education was not allowed. The higher casting considers them not suitable, not fit for getting education, that their work, that they are untouchables. What will they do with education? They are not good enough to be educated also. So, restriction on social interaction and access to opportunities. Restrictions were placed on their movement too, as even their shadows were considered polluting to the higher caste. The lower caste, especially the untouchables, they were considered so dirty, so polluted. People think that forget actual touching, forget actual intermingling. Supposing if a lower caste crosses path with a high caste and the shadow of the lower caste happens to fall on the upper caste person consider himself already polluted, dirty. So he'll go home, and before going home, he'll do certain puja, he'll take bath, he'll do certain puja to purify him, to perform certain rites and rituals. Only then he'll consider himself pure again, clean again, to go inside his house. So that is how badly these low caste people, especially the untouchables, are treated, that even their shadows were considered polluting or dirty to the higher caste. I will not go so much into detail, because once you go to your class 12, you will be learning more in details about the caste system. So this was just a brief introduction about it. And this caste system has undergone considerable changes over the years. Like I say, industrialization, urbanization and modernization has weakened the caste system. But I'm saying weakened. But it is still very much present in India. We cannot say that it has been done away with, it's been abolished. Of course, there's law that caste system is abolished and nobody should practice this caste system. But in reality, it is still there, though in a very much weakened form, especially in urban areas. Now let us go to the next type of social stratification, called the class system. The caste system was unique only to India, but this class system is a type of social stratification found especially in the modern civilized countries. If the caste system is unique to India, the class system is universal in nature. It is found in all kinds of societies, be it Western societies, Eastern societies, it's found in all kinds of societies, developed societies, underdeveloped societies, developing societies, third world countries. It is found everywhere. It is universal in nature. The class system refers to the classification of people based on their economic position in the society. If the caste system refers to the classification of people based on one's birth, into which caste you are born, into which family into you are born, this class system is based on their economic position. Where is your position, economic position in the society? Unlike the caste system, social classes is not rigidly defined. It is an open system. Caste system is closed. You cannot move up and down your caste system as and when you like. It is determined by your birth, the caste system. But the class system, it is an open system with increased social mobility. One can change one's class. The status is achieved and not ascribed. In the caste system, your status is ascribed, meaning determined by birth. But in the class system, no. It is something that you achieve in life. Birth is not the criterion of status. Example, let's take an example. You may be born into a poor family. You may be born into the low-class family. But by virtue of your hard work, you may do better in life and climb up the class hierarchy. There is no such thing as because you are born into a poor family, you have to remain poor your entire life. Class is an achieved status. Now, sociologists, they rely on income, wealth, one's level of education, type of occupation, what kind of occupation you have, material position, and lifestyle to classify people into classes. People, supposing doctor or an engineer will be in the higher class than a shopkeeper. In general, there are three classes: the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class. But this is not a fixed layer. Middle class also, there is the upper middle class, lower middle class is there. Upper class are less in number as compared to the middle class and the lower class. But even if they are less in number, their status and prestige is more than them. They have more status and more prestige than them. We have seen the 4 types of social stratification present in human societies, and the slavery and feudal system is no longer there, estate system is no longer there, caste system is still there, very much present in India, and it is a unique feature of the Indian society. Class is a universal social stratification found in all kinds of society. So we can come to the conclusion that all societies are classified, all societies are stratified. There is no society in the world which is not stratified in one way or the other. Now let's go on to the next topic of status and role. See, a society has different kinds of needs which can be fulfilled only when its members are prepared to, only when the members of the society, they are prepared to work together by coordinating their energy, their talents, their time, and their strengths and weaknesses. Nobody can satisfy all his needs and desire by himself or herself. Each and every members of the society, they occupy different places and discharge different responsibilities in the mutual interest as all. This division of labor is achieved through the assignments of duties and rights to position or statuses. Society is a network of status, and each status has a set of expected behavior called role. By providing for such roles associated with each status, the many things which a society wants done will be distributed among people and groups in an agreed manner. The status and role constitute an important part in social structure. Status and role, they are very important in social structure, because without the status, meaning the position of the people, of individual, and without the status and role, the needs of the society cannot be met. The various needs of society cannot be met. Now let's see what is status. A status is a position in a society or a group. The position that one's occupy in a society is called a status, and it has defined rights and duties assigned to it. Every status has rights and duties attached to their position. A status is occupied. You occupy a status in society. You occupy a status in life. For example, a mother occupies a status in the family, which has many norms of conduct as well as rights and responsibility. Her status is accompanied with rights and responsibility. What are her responsibility? Responsibility is to take care of her house, to take care of her home, her children. At the same time, she also has right to be obeyed by her children, right to be loved and respected by her husband. Every status is accompanied by rights and responsibilities. There are two ways in which individual in a society can get this status. How do you get this status? How do you achieve this status? It's through ascription or achievement. So what is this ascribed status? How do you get this status? This status depends on birth and is granted without any struggle. The moment you're born, you get a certain status in the society. You occupy a certain status in the society or in your family. The individual has absolutely no choice. And when it comes to ascribed status, I don't have any choice. You don't have any choice. It is a position occupied involuntarily. Whether you like it or not, since you're born into it, that's your status. The basis of ascribed status are caste. Like we said, caste is an ascribed status. You're born into a particular caste. You remain in that caste till you die. Kinship, your family, your age. You're born into a particular family. You cannot say that I don't want this to be my family. I'll go and change my family. You cannot do that. You're born in a particular year, then you're supposing you are now 16. Most of you would be 15, 16 years now. So you cannot say, I don't want to be 15 years, I'll be 12 years. No, I don't want to be 15 years, I'll be 20 years. You cannot say that. Your sex, whether you're a girl or a boy. Obviously, these days we have the third sex. You choose, but normally, either you're a boy or a girl, and your race or your ethnicity. You cannot, these are certain things over which you have absolutely no choice at all. Something that is given to you by birth, the status that you occupy the moment you are born is called your ascribed status. Now, the other kind of status is the achieved status. What is this achieved status? The achieved status is on the basis of personal merits or qualification. Like in the class system, you can change your class based on your merit and hard work and your qualification. So, achieved status is the status that you occupy in the society or in a group based on your merits or qualification. The person has some choice, however much, or it may not be so much. The choice may not be so much, but you cannot say that you don't have any choice at all. You still have some choice, however much or little. It is a position occupied voluntarily. It is something that you occupy out of your own wish, voluntarily. Now, the basis of achieved status are your education, your wealth, what kind of training do you have, what kind of occupation or career do you have, and your political influence, what kind of influence do you exert in the society. Those are your achieved status. Achieved status are based on this. In primitive societies, greater emphasis is placed on ascribed status, whereas achieved status is given more importance in modern civilized society. Now that we have seen what is the status. Status is the position that one's occupy in life, the one occupy in a group or society. There are two kinds of status, achieved and ascribed status. Let us see what is a status set. An individual in a modern complex societies occupy more than one status at a time. Every person, you, me, all of us, we occupy more than one status at a time. For example, you are a student, you are a teacher. When you come to school, you are a student. When you go to buy things, you are a customer to the shopkeeper. When you want to travel in a bus, you are a passenger to the bus driver. And to your brothers and sisters at home, to your siblings at home, you are a brother or a sister. And when you go to visit a doctor, you are a patient. So you have different kind of status in life. You occupy different status in life at the time. Not only one status. So this is called status set. This multiple status of an individual is sociologically termed as a status set. Now again, an individual may occupy different status in succession, in series, in succession at various stages of his or her life. For example, your daughter now, after when you become of a marriageable age and when you get married, you become a mother. You get married, you become a wife, you become a mother, and later on when you get old, in the later stage of your life, you have children, and your children gives birth to your grandchildren, then you become a grandmother, and then when your grandchildren gives birth to children again, then you become a great grandmother, and so on. So we occupy status in a sequence also, different status in succession. This is called a status sequence. Now, people in every society have their own evaluation of the status. Certain status are considered good, certain status are considered important, certain status are considered low or criminal status, and so on. This evaluation of a status, or the value or the importance attached to the status, is called prestige. These values are attached to social position rather than to the person. It is not, you are not attaching this prestige to the person, but you are attaching this prestige or value to the position occupied by that person, or to his or her performance, or to his or her actions. That is called prestige. The value, the evaluation of or value attached to the status. Status, remember, status means the position occupied, is called prestige. Status is ranked in terms of their high or low prestige. For example, status of a doctor is higher in comparison to that of a shopkeeper. Though the shopkeeper may earn, let's say the shopkeeper earns more than the doctor. I'm a big shopkeeper, have a huge shop. I earn more money in a day than what the doctor earns in a day. But my status is lower than that of the doctor, because the prestige, the value attached to my profession, attached to my position of a shopkeeper, is lower than that of a doctor. Now that we are clear with what is status and status set and status sequence and prestige, let us look into the concept of role. Whenever we discuss status, we cannot leave out concept of role, because there can be no status without a corresponding role attached to it. This role and status, they go hand in hand. They are same sides of the same coin, the sides of the same coin, or they are twin concepts. They are often seen as twin concept that when we discuss, we have to discuss together. So what is this role? We say that, now let's go back a little bit. We have discussed that a status is an occupied position. A role is the dynamic or the behavioral aspect of status. Role is the acting part of the status. It's the dynamic aspect of status. So while a status is occupied, role is played out. You play a role. A movie star. Well, what is the role of that hero in that movie? The acting part. It's called role. Now, people perform their roles according to social expectations. What people expect from you. Based on that, you perform your role. Example, a child learns to behave in accordance with how his or her behavior will be seen and judged by others. When a child cries, he knows that if he cries, parents will come running to see what happened, whether he is hurt or hungry or something is troubling him. So, people, we perform their roles according to how people will see and judge them. Since an individual occupies multiple status at a particular time, we have seen that you are a student to a teacher, a daughter to your parents, customer to your shopkeeper, a patient to your doctor, a brother or sister to your sibling. Just like you occupy multiple status at a particular time, you also have multiple roles to play. You see, every status is accompanied by a role. Every status has a role. So, you also have multiple roles to play. Now, because of these multiple roles, this may lead to conflict between the different roles because of incompatibility between the various roles one has to play. For example, let's see, one's role as a doctor, suppose you are a doctor, your role as a doctor may come into clash with your role as a husband or wife at home. Because sometimes you see doctors, they have to work extra hours, the non-working hours. If the need arises, if any emergency comes, then they have to. Then they get less time to spend at home with their family. Their wives or husbands or children may feel neglected because their father or mother who is a doctor, or wife or husband who is a doctor, is not giving them enough time. Then this is when role conflict comes. Your role as a mother or a father, your role as a doctor, it comes into conflict. Another example would be that of a teacher. Let's say I'm a teacher, at the same time I'm a mother. Now my role of the teacher is to go to school, to teach, to take class on time, to take class regularly, properly. But supposing my child is sick at home, I have to pay attention to my child also. So my role as a teacher and a mother will come into conflict, whether I stay at home and take care of my child or go to school and teach my students. So because of multiplicity of status, multiplicity of roles, and sometimes these roles come into conflict with one another, this is called role conflict. Now there is another thing called role stereotyping. Now what is this role stereotyping? A role stereotyping is a process of reinforcing or supporting some specific role for some member of the society. For example, men and women are often taught in the society, in the family, or socialized in stereotypical roles that men should be the bread earner, winner of the family. Men should go out and work and earn money and, take care of the family, and then women, they should stay at home, and then they should look after their home, and they should take care of their family. You stereotype the men are supposed to do this, men are supposed to behave like this. Another example would be like, say, that men should be doctors and women should be nurses, or that girls should take home science as an optional subject, that it is preferable for a girl to take home science, but boys should opt for mathematics or computer science. Role stereotyping. It reinforcing some specific roles for some member of the society. That is called role stereotyping. That's it for today. Thank you.